Tourism Minister welcomes UK's inclusion of Grenada on extended list regarding inbound vaccinated arrivals. We'll have details to this story and more in the national report. With the details to the news for Monday, October 11th, I am Rikisha St. Louis. Grenada is among a list of countries included on the United Kingdom's extended list regarding inbound vaccinated arrivals. And this is welcomed news for this country's Minister for Tourism and Civil Aviation, Honorable Clarice Modeste Kerwin. This means that fully vaccinated travelers from the listed countries inoculated with UK-approved vaccines will no longer need to self-isolate in England or take a PCR test before travel. They will simply need to take a 2-day PCR test. According to the release by the UK, effective Monday, October 11th, visitors must have had a complete course of Oxford AstraZeneca, Pfizer BioNTech, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson at least 14 days before arrival. Minister Modeste Kerwin says there are certain benefits that come along with being vaccinated. She hopes this move will encourage the uptick in vaccination that the country needs to obtain herd immunity.
The rollout of the vaccine has improved, not as fast as we would like to see it, but certainly we are in a better place than we were 1 month ago. I really do hope, as I speak about the vaccine, that the numbers will continue. We do have a policy in place, a requirement for visitors coming to our shores to be fully vaccinated. And other countries are requiring that persons coming into their countries, for example, UK is requiring that you have your 2 shots, and that counting from the day after you got your 2nd shot, you must have 14 clear days before you arrive there. So it means that in order for Grenadians or anyone living in Grenada to travel to UK, there are certain requirements. It means that we have requirements for persons coming in. And more we're hearing countries saying that you need to be fully vaccinated. And if you're fully vaccinated, there are certain benefits.
Minister Modeste Kerwin said other international countries will soon make vaccination mandatory for travel.
Some other countries are doing likewise. So I want to think that in the very near future, that persons will not be able to travel to other countries, to leave Grenada and travel to other countries without being able to prove that they are fully vaccinated. And we are working on our end to ensure that persons who come are fully vaccinated. At this point in time, it's for visitors. Grenadians come as they are, but of course, what they are able to do when they come in is going to be different. And UK is saying the same thing, that if you're not fully vaccinated, you can go into UK, but of course, what is required of you would be different.
The 2 vaccines available in Grenada, Oxford AstraZeneca and Pfizer BioNTech, are UK approved. Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell has expressed serious concern that children from poorer households are being left behind because of lack of access to the tools needed for remote learning. Under the guidance of the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development, Religious Affairs and Information agreed that remote learning should continue for the time being in the interest of the well-being and safety of all. Classes were also seriously disrupted last year during the lockdown, which was implemented to prevent the spread of COVID-19. During a virtual engagement with the diaspora on Saturday, Dr. Mitchell assured that Education Minister Honorable Emmeline Pear is currently engaging all relevant parties on the way forward.
I'm really very concerned about the fact that our children are not actually in school physically. Because while we have the technology and while we're doing a lot, and that is that is, some children are getting left out. And you know what the unfortunate thing is? The poorer children, the children who are less equipped financially and otherwise, are the ones most likely to be left out. And I know where I came from, and from a level of poverty, and I know without education, in fact, most of the cabinet members would not have a proper lifestyle today if it was not for education. And therefore, I feel almost a sense of guilt, knowing that under my watch, a number of children, for one reason or the other, because of pandemic and other reasons, some children are getting left out. So we have to do everything possible and to ensure that we can put systems in place. But we need the cooperation. If we go and open schools now, with most of the teachers not vaccinated, we could open a Pandora box of infection for children and cause and have the reverse, which is a serious damage to the education system in the country. So we need the teachers' cooperation. We need the parents' cooperation, and the minister is engaging both sides. The unions must understand their responsibility first and foremost must be to the students. And we all have, the government must realize this, that our first responsibility is to all concerned. But the children are the ones will be most affected by the fact that they are not in school physically. And
two local medical officials say Grenada needs to adopt an all-of-society approach to effectively fight off a second wave of COVID-19. Former Permanent Secretary Dr. Francis Martin and the former Chief Medical Officer Dr. George Mitchell say community involvement is key at this time. Both men were guests on the Ministry of Health's weekly program, The Next Chapter. Dr. Martin says Grenada is now seeing the end of the first wave and the Ministry of Health must do all it can to prevent a second. Grenada has so far recorded 180 deaths from COVID-19. COVID-19 cases in Grenada began to significantly increase from mid-August, with hundreds of positive cases recorded daily.
Now that we have community transmission, we cannot focus on the borders alone at the moment because that's where the least of our risk really lies right now. So the risk now has to be, and the strategy now has to be, what do you do to engage and to stop the second wave? What do you do to stop things from moving on? I don't see any other way of doing it than to adopt a all of society shared responsibility approach. It has to be shared responsibility, all of society involvement. It cannot be Ministry of Health or government alone. As a matter of fact, ministry and government right now are basically powerless to stop whatever is happening at the community level. It has to be shared responses and shared responsibilities. So, to my mind, the strategy has to do, how do we engage community at their levels? What are the strategies that helps community activities to be successful? Look and see what has been successful in communities in raising awareness and helping people to take ownership of the behaviors and what have you. So I think we have to engage people directly. There may be community groups that could be engaged. There may be community organizations that could be engaged.
Member of the COVID-19 Advisory Committee, Dr. George Mitchell, called on trade unions, religious communities, and other organizations to encourage their members to join the fight against the global pandemic. He said all hands must be on deck to survive the impacts of the virus.
The only way that we can win this war is if every eligible warrior in this country and maybe in the region and in the world is so prepared, so ready to be able to fight this war. And of course, it has different ways. The protection by sanitizing, by keeping your distance, etc. Those are methods of preparedness. Those are methods of personal sort of like safety measures against being harmed by this virus in this war. And as such, we need to continue to do that. And of course, I have always said, and Dr. Martin just said it again, the most powerful protective measure, the most powerful armor is the vaccine. So let's not lose sight of that. Churches, because the trade unions, the private sector, the NGOs, these people, Kevin, they know how to reach their people, their constituents, their members much more than we can ever imagine. They are accustomed to reaching them every day in the workplaces, in the social activities, in the networking. And as such, we need to mobilize them. We need to get them involved.
This is the National Report. The news will continue after the break. Government, private sector, civil society, academia, farmers, the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Forestry, in collaboration with the Food and Agriculture Organization, invites you to World Food Day 2021, the virtual edition, under the theme, Our Actions Are Our Future, Better Production, Better Nutrition, a Better Environment, and a Better Life. Join us October 15 from 9:30 a.m. via Zoom, Facebook, GIS, and Real FM as we recognize and celebrate the many successes of the agriculture sector. Welcome back. Grenadians are again being urged not to become complacent in face of the continued fight against COVID-19. That advice from Grenadian Rick Francois, who lives in the United Kingdom. During a virtual meeting with Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell on Saturday, Francois appealed to people not to overlook the seriousness of the virus. Both Francois and his father, who was a friend of the Prime Minister, contracted COVID-19 in 2020. His father unfortunately died. Mr. Francois used the opportunity to commend the government of Grenada for the initiatives taken, which have yielded positive results. He said that even though there is a steady reduction of positive COVID-19 cases in Grenada, now is not the time for complacency.
I must commend the Grenada government for the job they've done to date in suppressing the spread of COVID-19 in the island. Even though in the last couple of days I've seen a decline in the numbers in Grenada, I want to continue to say to the general population and people in the diaspora currently looking at this and listening in, unless you are seriously affected by COVID-19 personally, and you have relations and friends that you have lost as a result of COVID-19, you would never really understand the personal pain and trauma it causes.
Finally, in the news, Grenada is receiving inquiries about possible investment opportunities, a direct result of its participation at the Dubai Expo 2020. Minister for Trade, Industry and Consumer Affairs, Honorable Alvin Dabrio, says the feedback from the visitors is amazing. He's optimistic that Grenada will benefit tremendously if the inquiries about investments materialize.
The visitors that I have interacted with, they seem very interested in Grenada. They are interested in our climate. They also want to know how they can get to Grenada. They are interested in our type of government. Also, if they could purchase property and for doing business, our education systems. And very important, a lot of them want to know if we are tolerant of other religions. And I get the feeling that they are greatly impressed with our booth, our population, and knowing Grenada.
The expo is an opportunity for countries to showcase their produce, culture, food, among other aspects. It runs from October 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2022. Minister Dabrio said Grenada's pavilion continues to be the center of attraction daily.
The expo provides us with an excellent opportunity to showcase our country, our people, and their diverse cultures, our products, and many more to the world. Visitors can view pictures of Grenada that showcase its diversity, our rainforests, oceans, beaches, and type of accommodations. They can see, taste, and feel our spices and our products like our very famous chocolate.
That story just ended the national report for Monday, October 11th, recapping the top story. Tourism Minister welcomes UK's inclusion of Grenada on extended list regarding inbound vaccinated arrivals. On behalf of the entire news and production team, I am Rikisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.